Today, I'm going to present the topic of the North American Free Trade Agreement. I'm going to present a full listing of member states of NAFTA, historical development, stated objectives, Canada's history and involvement, strengths, benefits, advantages and pros, weakness, drawbacks, disadvantages, and cons, and finally my personal opinion on NAFTA. Member states belong to NAFTA. First, Canada. Second, United States. Third, Mexico. Historical development of NAFTA. NAFTA was inspired by the success of the European Economic Community from 1957 to 1993 in eliminating tariffs in order to stimulate trade among its members. Proponents argue that establishing a free trade area in North America would bring prosperity through increased trade and production, resulting in the creation of millions of well-paying jobs in all participating countries. A Canadian-US Free Trade Agreement was concluded in 1988, and NAFTA basically extended that agreement's provisions to Mexico. NAFTA was negotiated by the administrations of U.S. President George W. H. Bush, Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and Mexican Prime Minister Carlos Salinas de Gortari. Preliminary agreement on the pact was reached in August 1992, and it was signed by the three leaders on December 17. NAFTA was ratified by the three countries' national legislatures in 1993 and went into effect on January 1, 1994. A brief overview of states' objectives of NAFTA. Primary stated objectives were to eliminate trade barriers such as tariffs and quotas between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. To promote fair competition and increase investment opportunities among NAFTA agreement countries. To protect intellectual property rights across the three nations. To provide efficient dispute resolution mechanism to prevent trade conflicts. To foster economic growth and job creation through trade liberalization. A brief overview of Canada's history and involvement within NAFTA. NAFTA was built on the success of the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement and provided a complement of Canada's efforts through the WTO agreement by making deeper commitments in some key areas. Under NAFTA, tariffs on all covered goods traded between Canada and Mexico were eliminated in 2008. Tariffs on covered goods traded between Canada and the United States became duty-free on January 1, 1989, in accordance with the CUSFTA, which was carried forward under NAFTA. Since 1994, NAFTA was generated economic growth and raising standards of living for the people of all three members countries. By strengthening the rules and procedures governing trade and investment throughout the continent. NAFTA was proven to be a solid foundation for building Canada's future prosperity. NAFTA has had an overwhelmingly positive effect on the Canadian economy. It has opened up new export opportunities, act as a stimulus to build internationally competitive businesses, and help attract significant foreign investment. NAFTA has contributed to enhancing Canada's attractiveness to foreign investors, while providing more opportunities for Canadians to invest in NAFTA partners' economics. Investment is a key pillar of economic growth. Canada and the United States have one of the world's largest investment relationships with an investment stock totaling more than 866.4 billion Canadian dollars in 2016, according to Canadian statistics. The stock of Canadian direct investment in Mexico has increased dramatically since NAFTA entered into force. reaching nearly 16.8 billion Canadian dollar in 2016, up from only 530 million Canadian dollar in 1993. The strength, benefits, advantages, pros of NAFTA. Elimination of tariffs. The NAFTA trade agreement removed most tariffs on goods traded between the three member countries, making exports and imports more affordable. Increased trade and investment. Cross-border trade flourished, benefiting industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Economic growth. All three countries experienced GDP growth due to increased market access, an essential aspect of North American Free Trade Agreement benefits. Low consumer prices. Consumer has access to a variety of goods at lower price due to increased competition and supply chain efficiency. Job creation. Many industries expanded, creating more employment opportunities across NAFTA agreement countries. The weakness, drawbacks, disadvantages, cons of NAFTA. Job losses in some sectors. While NAFTA benefits some industries, others, particularly manufacturing in the United States, saw jobs losing due to outsourcing. Environmental concerns. The agreement led to increased industrial activity, raising concerns about environmental sustainability and regulations. Wage stagnation. Although jobs were created, wages in some industries remains low, particularly in Mexico. Economic dependency. Some sectors became highly dependent on NAFTA, making them vulnerable to policy changes and trade disputes. Each individual may hold different perspectives on NAFTA. In my opinion, I believe that NAFTA promotes economic progress and that it outweighs the drawbacks. First, NAFTA allows countries to exchange goods and services across borders without tariffs or restrictions. Second, it leads to positive effects on the economy, increasing the diversity of exports and lowering the price of consumer goods. Although it was negatively impact manufacturing, workers and wage stagnation, it increases economic growth and promotes global cooperation, making it the more sustainable choice. This is my works cited page. And finally, this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.